to Coffee with MBA and Beyond. I'm Paridhi, co-founder of MBA and Beyond, and we have a few more people joining, but it's already almost time, so we're going to start. We've got two amazing best of both the worlds in European business schools alums sitting with us. One, Shantanu, who's an INSEAD alum, also the founder of MBA and Beyond. Sai, one of our candidates back in the day for LBS, also one of our consultants at the moment. So we've got to let them introduce themselves instead of me talking about them right now. So maybe, Sai, we could start with your introduction and then move over to Shantanu's. Over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paridhi. My name is Sai. I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, did my undergraduate degree in civil engineering in India. And then I moved to US, did my master's in construction management. After that, I worked in the construction field for about 3 years in US, moved to Europe, worked for about 2.5 years in Amsterdam and Zurich. So about 5.5 years in the construction side. And then I decided, okay, I have enough in the construction field and I wanted to do something beyond this. That's when I spoke to Shantanu. I applied to few European business schools. Back then I was quite clear why I wanted to apply to Europe. Maybe we could get to that down the line. Had admits from both LBS, INSEAD, ESA. Eventually, I chose LBS against the advice of Shantanu, but can get to that later as well. I had a great time at LBS. I was the president of the consulting club. I was elected as the capstone speaker, did my exchange at Wharton. And yeah, after graduation last year, right now I'm working at a private equity fund in London, investing in data centers. So really glad to be here and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Sai. That's amazing. Also, when you just slightly mentioned back in the day, you were clear. And I know right now, world is struggling on the other side. A lot of our candidates sitting over here, some of them were at one point in time admitted to US schools last year, and now they're still considering their options. We'll go deeper into that in a bit.
Sure.
But yeah, we do see that this year European business schools have got the hype like never before, and more and more candidates want to apply to European business schools. And I can only predict and possibly even forecast that maybe the rankings are going to shake up really differently by Financial Times at the end of the year this year, maybe, or by the end of next year. So Shantanu, over to you for your introduction.
Right. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Shantanu. I'm an INSEAD grad, 2017 December batch, and guys have been helping people achieve their dreams through B School. B School is never the dream, right? It's just the medium. Apart from my work, I'm a part-time DJ. As a hobby, I pursue it. I love to play chess, 100% skill game, and I also love to play poker. I am also fond of quantum physics. If any one of you is interested, feel free to drop me an email. I've just recently did a few experiments at home, physics experiments at home, like double slit and light takes all the path, not just one. So yeah, that's pretty much about me. But overall, we like the thing that you're talking about, that the USB in terms of ranking that it's going to slip out. But I think already US business schools have refrained from providing data for this particular year. And then I don't think in 2026, the rankings, you would see US business schools over there. If it changes, but as of now, they're refraining from the rankings. Yeah, that's it. That's it about me.
All right. Thanks, both of you. So how we're going to go through this session, there are some specific topics specific to European business schools that we're going to take up first. And we'd like to keep the session only restricted to INSEAD, HEC, LBS, ESA, or any of the European business schools like IE, ISADE, SDA, Bocconi. If there are questions apart from these schools, Oxford said, Cambridge Judge also included, any other schools, feel free to DM me, and then I'm going to make a log of those. And then maybe towards the end of the session, we'll try to take them up. Otherwise, we can always get on a one-on-one call. We are going to go over through to the specific topics one by one. But as questions come to your mind while we're going through the session, please do not hesitate to park them in the chat window over here, or just raise your hands and one of our MBA and Beyond folks are going to unmute you. You can really ask your question by unmuting yourself. So that's how we want to take this up. Let's take the first question. And we really want to understand, Sai and Shantanu, maybe you can choose, whoever wants to volunteer to go for this. How can applicants really ensure that they reflect unique values and mission for INSEAD and LBS? Let's begin with those schools and then we can maybe talk about other schools as well. The question is asked in this way because these are both very big applications in the business school world, and they really expect the candidates to reflect on their, personal and professional lives and bring out the right values. So how can a candidate really ensure? So 2 cents on that are going to really help. Who goes?
Right?
I do.
You wanna go first?
Yeah, sure, maybe. I think firstly, it's really important that you do your research about the schools. Before you align yourself, you need to understand what exactly is that the school is looking for. So do your research on the website or other public sources of information, but also try to reach out to alumni, have some one-on-one conversations to understand what exactly is that the school is looking for in the potential candidates. I still remember just before this session, I was looking back at my essays. I couldn't find my LBS essay, but I found my INSEAD essay. I remember writing at the top on the header the 4 key admission criteria of INSEAD. So it was on my header. So every time I'm writing my essay, I always made sure that, okay, did I make sure I covered all 4 criteria that INSEAD is looking for? So make sure you, first of all, you clearly understand what is that the school is evaluating, and then ensure every answer covers that. And in case of LBS, something I always advise applicants is don't just focus too much on what the school can offer you, but also what is it that you can offer to the school, both during your time, during your MBA and after once you graduate. If you look at LBS mission, it's to make a profound impact in the business world. So how do you, both from your past experience during your time and later on, how is it that you're making an impact, and how can you show that through your essays? Over to you, Shantanu.
Right. Yeah. So absolutely bang on target. You first of all need to know what's the output, right? I mean, what are the values that the business school is looking for, and output should be aligned towards that. I think these days what's happening is that what applicants are doing is they would do ChatGPT, right? They would put everything and then say and align this as per INSEAD's value, which it sort of does. I'm not going to deny that it doesn't, but it adds in a lot of fluff. So I think one thing that you need to, in order to make yourself unique, is that, guys, AI at the moment has raised the bar for sure, but that bar has become new constant, which is everyone is there, and competition is relative, right? Competition is not in terms of absolute value at all, right? Competition is always, where everyone is. So with respect to that, I'm not going to name the applicant, but an applicant signed up a week ago. And in the first meeting, he brought me an essay prepared, which he had prepared through AI, and he's like, Shantanu, how does it look, right? And then he told me, this is with AI. Now, how do you think we can add more value to it, right? So I think, guys, what's more important is to first of all understand what uniqueness are you bringing to them, to the B school, and like what is business school looking for? What uniqueness do you bring, right? It is extremely important to identify the uniqueness, right? And unless and until you understand how are you unique, no one can help you. Not even ChatGPT can help you, right? So that unique factor is extremely important, you know. And generally, the uniqueness comes from, I mean, the way we portray, right? It comes from, there would definitely be a motivation even before you started working, right? I mean, I remember, Sai, even in your case, right? By the way, guys, I mean, we did applications, I in 2021, right? there was no AI
Yeah.
back then, right? But we started off saying, you grew up in Hyderabad, Sai, correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
Where you saw how the
The metro.
the metro thing,
Yeah.
right? So we actually
Yeah.
talked about how that particular incident was stuck in his head, and then we built essay then through that, right? We came to construction, then we came to whatever it did. So I think it's
Yeah. Yeah.
about it's about identify uniqueness, identify what motivates you, right? What is the personal angle behind? I think what people do is people are extremely stuck on their professional life. Like everyone is talking about blah blah blah. I'm going to be management consultant, right? I've done this, I've done that. If you're just gonna be stuck to your professional achievement, then you're comparable, guys. Like you increase revenue by 20 million, someone else would have increased by 200 million, right? Then it becomes who moved the success metric more. But what needs to be told through the essay is who are you uniquely, and there's no success metric to judge a person until now. As of now, had there been, business school would have adopted it, you know, but they don't have it, right? So I think what you should focus on is what really makes you unique, and all of you are unique, just that you don't know how.
Thanks, both of you. And I think the next question is also a follow-up on this, that you both highlighted how good a fit we are with the business schools beyond our professional lives. How well do we articulate that makes all the difference. A lot of times candidates do want to know and they want to ask, how much do extracurriculars matter? That's definitely one, because that's the personal side of things and that's beyond your profession. And what kind of extracurriculars? So how much do they matter, and what kind of extracurriculars should one be engaging in to make themselves like a good fit for the schools that we are discussing, top European schools here? So
I think it definitely matters a lot because, as Shantanu mentioned, business schools, they just don't want to hire you a best engineer or a best consultant. They want to see you holistically as a person. In fact, I think LBS essays, one of the questions in LBS essays is to explain your extracurricular achievements and what you're passionate about or hobbies. I think even INSEAD has a question about hobbies. So they really want to see you as a person as a whole, not just who you are at work, because you are going to be spending, let's say, in INSEAD for 10 months, or in case of LBS, maybe 15 to 21 months with a lot of people, and they want to see how well do you get along in the class environment and outside of the class environment. So that really matters a lot. And when it comes to like what achievements you want to highlight, my perspective is that first do your self-reflection, as Shantanu said, like look back on everything that you're passionate about, what do you do, and pick 2 or 3 that really matter, and what is the impact that you have delivered. And also, I think it always helps if you could link to the school some of the stuff that happens at the school. For instance, I was very passionate about hiking back then. LBS had a trekking club. So I was able to convey that, okay, I would like to take part in the trekking club. So it always helps if you could also link it to some of the extracurricular activities that happen in the school. And schools do place a lot of emphasis. If you have seen last year when LBS won the MBAT, which is like the MBA Olympics, it's been a big news. Like it went to Poets and Cons. So schools value that. Yeah.
Indeed. And I mean, so it's before answering that, there's a mindset with which you do MBA application. A mindset is, are you submitting the application, or you're also thinking about what I'm going to say in the interview, right? So I've submitted this, I'm also going to get shortlisted, right? So what I'm going to say, or are you thinking I'm going to think about it then, you know? So with this particular mindset, if you see that, we're also thinking about interview straight away, even when we are doing the essays, right? ECs matter a lot. We all are humans. I mean, the connection that you can make with someone through ECs, there's no way you can make a connection through your professional job, at least to an adcom, right? With an adcom, right? or the stuff that you do outside of your life. That's why it's so important, right? And that's why it is also so important to help shortlist. The way Sai said, what are you really going to talk about? Because you, so first of all, when people are doing application, they're like, no, I don't have an EC. Like, no, I don't know what it is, like, I don't think I do anything else outside of my work, right? I go to office like 10 a.m., come back at 9 p.m. I don't get enough time, right? But then the moment you start exploring them, right, you're like, oh yeah, I'm also involved there. I'm also involved there. Now I have 10 things, now I don't know what to talk about again. Like what are the top three? Um, so ECs and what you're doing outside of your professional life, I would say matters a lot, because that gives a connection. That brings a connection with the adcom, and it's that bond, that when they're reading your essays and they're like, I think we should get to know this person more, you know, and it comes through that.
Great, thanks both of you. So I would like to chime in and add a few points to this. So none of our profiles are fully perfect or ticking all the boxes, that business schools are looking for. Sometimes we're short on our GPA, sometimes GMAT, GRE, sometimes it's a gap year that we've had, sometimes, we haven't had enough promotions compared to the others. So what Shantanu and Sai here are talking about is so essential, and it's one of the core of MBA and Beyond framework. We cannot proceed or work on a candidate's application unless we have explored fully a candidate, not just from a professional point of view, but equal weightage, and sometimes even more weightage and more time is given to the candidate's personal life. It's a personality match that you're working on to build a strong application for a business school that's extremely competitive. So circling back, if we're only sticking to your professional achievements or the professional impact that you've brought in, or positioning yourself as a global business leader later, only talking about your professional life, it will not help. And in fact, if you've seen INSEAD's essays, and LBS, like Sai said, they do ask you a specific question where you do not have to revolve around your professional life. I know so hard it is because we are culturally so trained, and I'm going to show you an example later of one of the questions that we ask our candidates. So when we ask them to talk about their career trajectory after they graduated from university, they go on and on talking about 2,500 words. But when it comes to talking about your personal aspirations, it's hard to even populate 200 words. And that's how difficult it is. So the real job that you need to start doing from here on is to start introspecting the most meaningful questions with respect to your business school application from your personal life beyond your professional life. I know we all can talk professionally a hell lot of shit on our application. So yeah, okay, minus that, I think we'll have to put a beep to the word that I just used. But we have a question. Somebody DM'd me, so we'll take it up because it's a continuation to extracurriculars. Do a point of reference or any kind of extracurricular activities that I've done, point of activities held in college, anything that I've done, okay, position of leadership, I think that's what the candidate is asking, held during college, carry weightage even after 3 years of work X. Do you have any light to throw on that, Shantanu and Sai?
Absolutely, absolutely. It has. But again, it also depends on the way you are saying it, right? And the way you would like to extend your story beyond your undergrad years, right? Or your master's years. It matters more over there, and also how well it connects with the overall story. But as far as you have done, you are a born leader, right? Or you have been into leadership roles earlier. That certainly helps.
Yeah. But we'll also like to point out that you should be doing something or the other. It would be reflecting in something or the other that you're doing professionally right now, or you might be doing something outside of work also. So as long as we're able to connect the dots, I think it's fair to talk about it also if it's nuanced enough. If we are not, let's say we did something back in college and we're not doing absolutely anything about it right now, then it doesn't become a great story to tell to the business schools as well. Sai, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Uh, no, I think yeah, it definitely matters. The short answer is yes, and it actually shows that you are somebody who has been taking initiative for a long time, not just something you have started recently. And even in undergraduate schools, you could take a lot of responsibility. Like some of these schools have massive cultural festivals where you have thousands of people coming in. So it's not a small thing that you organize the festival of that scale. So don't ignore any achievements that you had during your undergraduate school. I think they still carry equal weightage.
Thanks, both of you. And the next question we have, or the topic, is around leadership and teamwork. So, what's the best way to highlight leadership and teamwork in essays without exaggeration?
Without
Oh,
exaggerating,
Want to
we
go
really
first,
like it.
Shantanu?
Yeah, sure. So without exaggeration, yeah, that's a that's a good point. Um, uh, First of all, I'm going to start with this without exaggeration. You got to brag modestly, guys. The only source of information for the B school is the information that you are providing, right? And apart from the LOS, which also a lot of applicants have a huge influence on, but the information that B school is reading is coming through you. And if you are not talking about yourself properly, then who is going to, right? So, but again, brag modestly. Now, coming on, what was that? Teamwork and leadership, right? How to show teamwork and leadership. So what's leadership, right? Leadership is channelizing team's effort towards a common goal, right? So there are ways to show it. There are a few people who, for instance, let's say um, there was a scenario where like someone working on oil rig identified that there's a huge some sort of blast that happened, and now what they have to do is they have to control the situation under extreme pressure, right? And then they would have 120 people working on the rig, and then guide them, right? Like that, create a team that first of all was supposed to see how bad the blast was, right? How much gas is leaking, and then we actually got to see how much time do we really need to take on in order to get everyone inside a safe space. And then I also need to identify how much of oil have we lost, right? So all I'm trying to say is you then make sub teams and then eventually channelize everyone's effort towards a common goal, which in this case was safety, you know. But again, it doesn't have to be as magnificent or as flashy as a blast happened or someone died, it can very well happen in a setting, in marketing setting, for instance, that you were running a campaign, and it was a high visibility campaign, right? A lot of money was put on it, and then the campaign had to go to different states or to different cultures, like also in North America, also in Europe, also in India, right? And then you can say that I really did well in terms of that for the Indian for my team in India. Their responsibility was to make sure that it is cost efficient and resource allocation, whereas the European counterpart, the German counterpart, they were actually thinking about um, technical aspects more, right? And whereas US counterpart, right? So what I did was whatever drives decision in a particular culture, right? I handed them that particular role to that team, right? So eventually, again, everyone is moving towards a common goal, which is the campaign. So there are a bunch of ways, guys, that you can showcase leadership. And when we are talking about leadership, automatically teamwork also comes out, right? And also to show teamwork, where we are not showing leadership, is for instance that you had a team of engineers, let's say, right? And the engineers were supposed to do that work, or you're a designer, right? You, there's no point of you of being there on Sunday at 9 a.m., you know. But you coming in, right, to be with the team just boosts the morale, right? Now, guys, I don't want you guys to copy and paste this, right? We have already used all of this stuff. with all the schools. So it would be plagiarism, just giving you guys a heads up, right? But all I'm trying to say is we extract stories out of people, and there are a bunch of them, infinite ways through which you can showcase it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, both of you. Okay, we've received some very interesting questions, very much relevant to INSEAD and LBS, even HEC for that matter. So a candidate wants to know if she has international exposure, should that be avoided to talk about it as a USP? Because earlier we were talking about a differentiator. So I'll read it out loud. With LBS and other EU programs attracting people from all over the world, would international experience be something to avoid when answering what makes you unique? I feel international exposure can be used as a USP, but yes, I want to know your thoughts, Shantanu and Sai, on that.
Okay. By the way, Sai, so LPS, I think from the last intake, they've added another question, which is
Okay.
what makes you unique? It's a 200 word essay. Yeah. It depends. But if we are specifically because we are talking about uniqueness, so I think we are talking about LBS over here. So if I just talk about LBS over here for now, then I can take it for other schools. LBS also gives you another essay which talks about your most significant international exposure. So as far as showcasing international exposure is concerned, you can show it through that essay, right? So you can use other stuff for the uniqueness essay. Right now, in general, if the question was about should I show my uniqueness, when the essay is not asking about uniqueness, and if the school values that, why not? You should, right? The school values that, you have it, you're not showing it. Come on, guys, right? And that's a no-brainer. So yeah, you should show it, but you also need to identify in a way that just moving out of the country or having international exposure, this is not the reason they should take you in. They love it, for sure. For sure, they love it. They love such profiles, but this is not the reason they are going to take you in, right? Because even in that pool, there's so many people. So as far as overall uniqueness is concerned, indeed, international exposure can be a part of it, but it should not be just focused on international exposure. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. And I would just add, I don't think having an international experience can be, as Shantanu said, purely just having international experience is your unique aspect. Like when I applied, I was fortunate. I've worked in almost 4 countries for about 5 years. But when I look back, that's not the unique aspect. If I were to highlight that as my unique aspect, I would drill down more into, in fact, we have done in my essays on how did I navigate my circumstances in different countries. I was during COVID working in a remote part of the country. How did I navigate those situations? How was I comfortable working with people from different cultures? I think that's what needs to stand out rather than just saying that, okay, I worked in 4 countries. So think about like, what is it that is unique in that circumstance rather than just saying you worked in an international geography.
Thanks, Sai. That was
Yep.
insightful. So yeah, I think more than that, what you gained from it and how it turned you into either a better leader or, changed your perspective on how do you manage conflicts. I mean, however you can exemplify those rightly, that can definitely be your superpower. But yes, you can use international exposure as a part of the theme where you have something to draw out of it, is how we concluded. We have 2 more questions around international exposure for both LBS and INSEAD. One of the candidates is asking how important it is to LBS, and second candidate is asking, is it mandatory for INSEAD to have international exposure? So I think we'd like to hear from LBS and INSEAD both right now.
I will have Sai to take this up. But first of all, is it important to LBS? Yes, a lot. Just not talking about it a lot. Sai, so you got to defend your school now. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I think for any European business school, international experience definitely matters. And you can see why if you look at either LBS, INSEAD, or any other European business school, at a minimum, they could have like 40, 50, or 60 nationalities in the cohort. So they really want to see how well do you perform when you're surrounded by people who come from a different background, different language, and everything. In fact, in my first year at LBS, usually you are paid in a study group. You do all your assignments and courses along with those people. And every person in that 6-person group is from a different country and a different background. Like I had somebody like a person from Japan, from investment banking, somebody from US. So everybody is from a different nationality and different background. So they want to see that how comfortable you are working in an international setting. Sorry, I missed it. I think there was a second part of the question as well, if I missed it.
How
Uh,
mandatory for INSEAD? So yeah, both for LBS.
okay. Yeah, I definitely think it's important. Is it mandatory? I have seen a lot of people have friends who didn't have international experience before they have come to LBS. And I think there are other ways maybe Shantanu can touch upon as well on how you demonstrate that even though you didn't, I mean, come on, even the schools understand not everybody is going abroad to study or work or fortunate. So there are other ways to communicate your ability to navigate it in such situations.
Absolutely.
Right.
Just Shantanu, to build upon, since Sai has almost touched upon both INSEAD and LBS, another follow-up question on this is, how can you showcase, even if, let's say, you're sitting in your own country and you work with people across the world, day in and day out, will that not be counted as international exposure, or would it be for both the schools? If you can throw some light on that, and how can we really showcase that in our application?
Okay, so a follow-up question for Sai or a follow-up question for me?
No, for you to just to
Oh,
add,
okay. All
add
right.
on, add on. Yeah.
Okay. So guys, I mean, I would also like to answer the question, the earlier question. What I have been seeing in the past few intakes, it matters a lot. Um, Again, it's about competition. You know, if they are getting such profiles, if they're getting such profiles, independence, right, and they have to choose, then also the sort of output that schools could see when someone has international exposure. Um, uh, for instance, I would like to tell you first of all why is it important, and then I can answer the question whether school is are making it mandatory or not. Right? Just the way Sai mentioned, right? You are in a study group, right? Even in my study group, I was Indian from product background, Brit consulting, Australian, I think P or VC, and then Turkish. So Australian and Turkish, one of them was from P, another one was from VC. You know, I don't remember who exactly, and then Mexican from FMCG. Um, and they throw us with an assignment to solve, right? Um, it's first of all very difficult to build consensus over there, extremely difficult, right? What you were saying and the way it is being perceived, what you think that like everyone has assumptions in their head, right? If A happens, then B is gonna happen, right? You culturally know that. You don't have words to even explain it, right? Uh, Other culture has if A happens, then C should happen. Now you guys are arguing between each other, right? And no one can explain properly. Both of you can't explain properly. Why am I saying this? You know, and I think that is when you sort of develop an understanding after a while, after having good, healthy arguments, you know, is that none of us is correct, you know, and these are just perspectives, right? And if someone already has this learning pre-MBA, if already has it, then the entire learning of the study group just, you know, just goes like really very high, you know. Um, that is something which I feel INSEAD, LBS, for that sake, even ESA, HEC Paris, they've realized this, you know, the sort of output that we're getting of people who have international exposure, right, is really very good. Now, after speaking about this, I hope I've explained how international exposure helps, right? Um, I have seen. So let's say if you're coming from impact background, social impact background, or you're a veteran, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter much. International exposure really doesn't, because if you're coming, if you're a veteran, right, then there's no way you're going to have international exposure, right? I mean, there's going to be espionage, right? And if you're coming from impact space doesn't have enough money in general to send you anywhere, you know. um, but I'm not saying that people in impact space do not travel. Very few, you know. So these ways there are a few segments, you know, where these schools are accepting application without international exposure. But if in your pool there are people with significant international exposure, what I've observed, again, this is my subjective opinion, guys. I'm not saying what business schools are doing exactly, right? But this is, again, my subjective opinion. I have seen they favoring people with international exposure. The last, INSEAD for the last 3-4 intakes, there are people with dual nationalities, you know,
Yeah.
even at LBS, right? So this is what I've been observing. But still, there are people who get through, not continent without international exposure.
I think Shantanu had a study mate. He probably had 3 nationalities or 3 passports. It was so
Yeah.
weird on where he was born, how many passports he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with that said, yeah, just to emphasize again, there's no doubt. I think it's a positive to have international experience for obvious reasons, like Shantanu explained. But with that said, if you don't have an international experience, depending on the background, again, you need to think about your profile holistically. And for this specific aspect, you could also think back about your ability to work in different cultures. India is also quite diverse, even if you have worked only in India. So there are other ways that you can look back to communicate that, you know, you are somebody who is comfortable working in a diverse environment.
Absolutely. And I think I missed to talk about this. So even if, let's say, you've worked in India, but you've worked with teams, um, where your team members are stationed outside of India, right? I think what's more important in this case is to show that you understand the cultural nuances. There was that example that I gave in the beginning, where the German team were more focused on the technical aspects. The Indian team was focused on the resource allocation and cost optimization, and the US team is more focused on making a bold move with a beautiful ROI. You know, so the deal is, even though you're sitting in India, but if you understand the nuances, right, then you got to show it. You really got to show it. But someone having international exposure on paper, where the resume is talking about it, right? Have 3 nationalities, you know, so I was born there and blah blah blah. So the resume is talking about it. The application form talks about it. Might not have to showcase it, you know, that much. But someone who doesn't have an experience of physically moving out of the country to work, I think then you've got to focus over there, showcase it. Even if school is not asking about that, but you know that school, it matters, right? Bring it through your leadership example. Because this example that I gave you in the beginning was a leadership example. It was not an international exposure example, right? So we blended, you blend international exposure to leadership, or there's any other question that the business school is asking, right? You need to answer that question simultaneously. Got to pop up the international exposure. There are, guys, multiple ways to do this.
Yeah. Thanks, both of you. Just summarizing here, if you can showcase what the school expects, and if you don't have international exposure, you've just worked on, let's say, at the grassroots level with the people from your own country, it's just one value that LBS and INSEAD focuses on. Yes, they do focus on it broadly and heavily, but there are other values as well. So if you have got other values in your profile and your experience to overpower international exposure of any other relative candidate who's applying with a similar caliber as you might as well you can still make it through. And for people who are absolutely who've not moved across the globe but still work with people from different parts of the world, I highly recommend my favorite book on international exposure is Culture Map by Erin Mayer. I'll drop the name here, explore that, maybe read a few chapters. You'll get the perspective of what INSEAD and LBS really expect out of you to portray as international exposure. Culture map. Erin Mayer is one of the organizational behavior professors at INSEAD, and she really draws the attention of how much important international exposure to European business schools is. So you'll be able to get more perspective and probably even apply some learnings into your business school application. We will now move on to a few more questions. I know there are some questions waiting, but we'll go back to the flow that we had. Are there any particular strengths that can offset a lower score in your application?
Again, sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
All right, go ahead, Sai. No, Sai, go ahead, man. Go ahead. They listen to me almost every time, man. Yeah, we have a new speaker today. Yeah.
I mean, GMAT, probably what everybody says, the obvious truth is GMAT is, again, one component of the application. I was looking back, actually, personally, I don't think I had the best score. I had a score of 710. And back then, every person I spoke to said, as an Indian male engineer, 710 is like, don't even apply to LBS. That was the feedback I got back then with some of the other people I spoke to. But as I said, the schools want to look at you holistically. So don't get discouraged, number one. And number two is, if you compare US and European schools, you can clearly see a stark difference in the average GMAT score of the accepted students. I think, in fact, for LBS, it usually fluctuates somewhere around like late 690s or early 700s, like somewhere in that average. So it's not that clearly shows you, like, it's not the most important component for a lot of business schools to have an extremely high GMAT score. Does it help? Yeah, of course, it does help to have a good GMAT score. But if you don't have it, there are other ways to showcase. Like back then, I was quite disappointed. I got a quant score of, I think, 49 for what reason, I don't know. But there are other ways to show that, hey, I was an engineer, I had all this amazing academic record that you can see. So yeah, there are other ways to showcase that, even if you have a low GMAT score, you could make up for that.
Right. Indeed. I think if you have a low GMAT score, then you should attempt the optional essay, right? But again, it depends by how much, right? I mean, if let's say the average is 700, you have a 690, then it depends, like how well have you posted the story. If you feel that, it's enough, the story is enough, you don't have to, right? I generally refrain from writing the optional essay unless until it's very important, sometimes it can happen that, let's say you have a 700 and the average score is 710, and they're really impressed with the overall story, but you diverted their attention towards a score, that I am telling you, I feel my score is low, so again, I mean, it's a there are a lot of different factors we gotta see, right? Like how well are we covering the other aspects in your story? For instance, let's say if you don't have, let's say, international exposure, you have really high GMAT score, right? We can make a case through the optional essay, right? Or if you have a high international exposure, you have low GMAT score, we can again make a case through optional essay. Or you have high GMAT score where you had low GPA during your undergrad, we can still make a case through optional essay, right? So there are multiple permutation combinations, guys. And we really got to see how many parts are you missing in the overall story, how many aspects. If it is one, then you might decide not to even talk about it, and we'll plug it in through the essays somewhere. But if there are multiple, then we gotta talk about it, right? We can't just let it go unaddressed. The other thing is, it's not just about the low GMAT. It could very well be about I have high years of experience than average, right? So we do write all, we cover all these aspects, right? Especially for low GMAT and low GPA, there is like proper recipe of how to write on it, because that's the most common thing that people have. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just answering a few questions on the side. Thanks, both of you. Okay, so then next we move on to the average. Okay, let's talk about the years of work experience. So I've received two questions. One of the candidates is asking, does more work experience like 6 years is an advantage? So I'm not sure if you guys have looked at the average years of work experience. I mean, just having years to work experience, I can answer that question. Doesn't say anything about you. Candidates make it with 3 or 4 years of experience, sometimes with 10, 12, 13 years of experience. So we've seen candidates on both sides of the spectrum, while the average remains 6 and 7. But Sai and Shantanu, do you want to elaborate on the number of years of work experience versus when is it considered okay to go for a B school? Like how should a candidate decide that now I'm ready to apply to a B school, probably? So maybe both parts
Sure,
add more.
sure.
Yeah.
I think we both are from B school, so we can also mold this answer in a way that, Sai, what sort of people in your batch did you see? Did you see there were people with high years of experience as well and lower as well? Like what's your take?
Yeah, I met people who made me feel very young, and I've met people who made me feel very old. On a serious note, yeah, I met people, yeah, who had, I think LBS, if you see again between US and European B schools, if you haven't noticed already, a stark difference is the number of years of experience that people have before they go to B school. When I went to Wharton, I think generally I've seen people who did maybe 2, 3 years of experience, but whereas at LBS, I've seen anywhere from people, I think the minimum is usually about 3 years. And then I think the oldest I've seen was somebody with 13 or 14 years of experience. That's rare. It's like, what do you call forward the curve? Yeah, you see on either spectrum, but most of them probably rank between anywhere between 4 to 6 years. It's like a sweet spot that you see in European B schools, but there are always exceptions on both ends.
Yeah, same here. I resonate completely. So the Brit consultant I was talking about in my study group, she only had 3 years of experience and a 770. Cheap mat, you know. And then the Australian guy I was talking about had 9 years of experience. So this is just my study group. But in general, I had friends who were like, yeah, 33, 34 as well. There. And anyways, also the veterans who are coming in, they're also the age is higher. But these people that I'm talking about, they were not veterans. They were like corporate world, corporate slaves like us. So yeah. Um, it indeed it matters, but what matters, it matters how many years of experience you have, but what matters more is why MBA now. Also, MBA is for people who have leadership potential, right? So if you're 36, 37, then full-time MBA is not for you, right? Then you have other programs. LBS has a Sloan Masters program, right?
Yeah, it has Sloan and Executive MBA.
Yeah, an exec, right?
Yeah.
You got Stanford, Paridhi is pretty fond of that particular one, right? MSX. Then you have USC Marshall has one, IBM. That is pretty awesome. But again, I think what really matters is um, uh, if you feel your age is higher, then you should not let it go unaddressed. Use optional essay and explain to them why MBA now instead of saying my years of experience is higher. Yeah.
Thank you, both of you. I hope we've addressed, because we had 6, 3, and 11 years of experience, people asking the same question. So what a telepathy, same kind of questions running in everybody's head. Let's try and take up the next topic, and we have 12 minutes. So if there are more questions coming in, please feel free to drop them in. How can applicants demonstrate a strong fit with the program beyond listing courses and clubs? I think we talked about the values, so maybe if we've touched upon it already, we can say that you try to bring in the right values that the business schools are looking for, or is there anything else additionally, Shantanu?
I would like to add. I'm not gonna name the so I'm working on this applicant, so I can't reveal much information. But this guy works in a consulting firm, right? That was the founder of that company was from that B school where this guy is applying. So there's another connection, right? Talks about that B school connection, right? Um, another instance, for instance, the company I worked pre-INSEAD, that was in Singapore. It wasn't INSEAD, it was started by INSEAD, guys. The interns were from INSEAD, right? The VP, my stakeholders were from INSEAD, So again, that was again a different connection. So there are multiple ways, and then you have, for instance, there's another applicant where the school the applicant is applying to, the referee from who's getting the LOR is from the same school, right? So then talks about the connection as well, right? In a way that I really value this particular. Um, I really respect this particular value of the school, which I learned from my boss, and I have been also showcasing it. And throws an example, right? There are other ways as well. Or my friend went over there, and then he made me visit the campus. He made me meet professors. So I know, blah, blah, I've already had a word, you know. So these are other ways apart from values, obviously, values we've touched upon, right? These are other ways to show some sort of connection.
Sai, you're on mute if you're talking. Sorry. Yeah. You're still on mute.
Neha, can you help? I think Neha gotta help.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly add, I think it's good to refer to some specific courses or clubs that shows the research that you have done, but don't just list them. Try to identify what is the gaps that you have right now in your career path or in the knowledge that you have and how those courses will fill in. And also what is your short-term goal and how any of the specific club or course will actually help you. So I think that's important rather than just simply referring. And you could also, if you want to go one step ahead, you could also think of what are some initiatives that you can think that you can implement in a particular club or that you're passionate about that might also help you eventually down the line.
Absolutely.
Right. And one interesting thing, again, I cannot tell the name of the B school and the club that identified the applicant still working, So what this applicant did was, so applicant has an EC where applicant has helped the community, and then was speaking with that B school alum and mentioned that I have this EC, and then the alum mentioned that I have a friend who started this like such a club to do such a thing at B school. It is dormant now. It started last year and it's dormant now, And now the applicant is talking about that I am going to revive that club. And I also had a word with blah, 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 right? So these are other things apart from obviously guys, courses, professor names, and networking events, specs, the basic things. So yeah, so these are other ways.
Thanks, both of you. Last topic that we would discuss, and then we'll take up some more questions. Okay, so this is around goals, and we've received some questions around goals as well. But the question is around how do you make sure that your long-term goal really look realistic and they don't look like aspirational fluff? Because I understand that with short-term goals, we are all able to identify the evidences, the strengths and achievements to support the pivot that we want to make. But what goes, really far-fetched is our aspirational long-term goal. So how would you both address that?
I mean, I personally don't believe, in general, that careers are linear. I never thought like 5 years back I might be working in investment side. But in this context of the specific question, if you want to show your goals are achievable, maybe try to show they are interlinked, your short-term goal and your MBA, what you have done before your MBA, your short-term goal aligns with what you want to do in the long term. And then if you're saying that in the short term, you want to go into investment banking or you want to go into infra investment, but your long term is you want to start a fintech startup, maybe that doesn't add up. You could probably do it. Maybe that might happen with a lot of people, but just make sure that, there is some interconnection and you're actually building those skill sets through your MBA and your short-term goal, that it adds up to what you want to do in your long term.
Right. So there's like this funny thing that popped up in my head. So B schools roll out their statistics, right? Like employment happening, right? Like after 3 months, this is the percentage of people getting employed, or 6 months people. Have you ever seen these percent of people achieving their long-term goal, right? No, right? Because they first of all don't have those stats, and they don't even care. Once you've graduated, what they care about is the short-term goal. First of all, they care the most about, right? But long-term goal gives you direction. The entire application, the direction is actually from long-term goals, right? And that is where they are super important. Um, and the way Sai mentioned that they should be connected, we call it collinearity, where what you're doing now, your short-term goal and your long-term goal, these three things should be connected, right? You can't say, what I'm doing now in short term, I'm going to change my industry, then in long term, again, I'm going to change the industry, right? Now, it's not going to float. Also, uh, people generally feel that the goal should be very flashy, right? But focus on making them more practical than flashy. Flashiness doesn't sell much when it comes to the practicality of it, right? If it is practical and flashy, oh, bingo, jackpot, right? And if you can achieve it through your current work experience, you can also prove it. But that's like a jackpot, right? But it's very rare, guys. But what we have observed over the time is pragmatically, you can, like, if your goals are pragmatic, that is when these schools are interested in you. And like I said, long-term goal just defines the direction of the entire application, by the way.
Yeah.
It is so much important. Yeah.
Thanks, both of you. We'll go a little deeper into the goal question because we've received a question which will help answer a lot of other questions in a lot of other heads. But eventually, as Shantanu was speaking about the idea, when you paint for a business school, you have to position yourself as a global business leader in the long run, because that's why you're going for a global MBA who wants to solve a real world challenge. Now, how broad or specific you want to keep it, that's really defined by the evidences that we've built so far, and whatever is logically supporting what we are saying. So whatever you're putting, always question, do I have an evidence to support this? And if I don't, am I going to be building evidence on top of the evidence that I already have? So if you're not doing that, then it's not connecting and it is not making sense, especially in today's world where the job market is so bad. All that business schools care about is to know, are you going to be 100% employed? So because of that, and like we're advising candidates to keep their pivot as minimal as possible in at least today's scenario. But yes, the next question that arises, if we are going to keep the pivot as minimal as possible, how are we going to even express the gaps that we really need an MBA? So I know that's a catch, but you really need to figure out that sweet mix of the gap and what you're going to do with the right evidences. And that's what leads you into a top business school. So the question that we have 2 minutes, we'll take this one up. And I think this is really meaningful. My question is related to the short-term and long-term goals. How specific do I need to be? What if I want to figure out my short-term and long-term goals during my MBA? For example, I know I want to go into consulting because it touches on various industries, but I'm not sure which industry I want to pursue in the end. I'm sure this is a question that a lot of them want to ask. So, Sai and Shantanu, maybe we can close with this one.
This is
Go ahead,
extremely
Shantanu.
funny. Yeah, this is extremely funny, guys. 80% of the people who actually go to do MBA are really not sure. They have a story for sure, and majority of the people going towards consulting, A, it pays a lot of money. Yeah, right. B is you have the entire options available the moment you quit that job. You can go to literally any industry, any function, right? Because you have worked through so many industries, so many functions, right? It becomes easier. Um, um, but having said that, I think it's guys, it's actually important if you already know, or even if you don't know, but try to see that B school is going to make an investment on you. If you look at it from that perspective, you still got to submit a plan. What's the plan? Do you have any plan? If you're saying I don't have any plan, I'm going to figure out the plan. I'll wing the plan, then that's not going to look good, right? You can really say that my short-term goal is this. Alternatively, my short-term goal is that, but my plan B is that, right? But both plan A and plan B, even if I get this or I get that, I'm still aligned towards my long-term goal, right? So you need to have that sort of a clarity. Brainstorm, introspect, right? But need to have that sort of clarity. Else you're not going to sustain. Even if you get an interview, you're not going to sustain the interview. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I would add, at the end of the day, business schools, employability matters a lot to business schools. Nobody, these numbers matters for the business schools when they go to the rankings. So they want to hire people who they think can eventually get hired. So it does matter to them to see that, you have a good sense of direction, like Shantanu mentioned, on what you want to do. I think completely mentioning that, hey, I don't know, I'll figure out, probably will never fly. But in this specific example, yeah, it's fine if you think that, okay, I want to get into consulting, whether I want to do a boutique TMT because I have that background, or I'm open to exploring, is something probably okay. But mentioning, I don't know absolutely what I want to do is, yeah. You can think from a B school standpoint, okay, I'm not sure if this guy is going to get placed once he's here. So if you have a specific role, then it's probably even more helpful on where you want to get into, or specific role and specific geography. Don't overlook that as well. That matters a lot as well. If not, you at least need to have a good sense of direction on where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right. I think I missed touching upon the specifics. Guys, you've got to be extremely specific for the short-term goal. In long term, we're not asking you location or what sort of role that you're looking forward to, but talk about as a set of problems or this particular cause you stand for in your professional life, and you're going to be working in that direction. That's what surface. Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you. One thing I like to joke about at the end of this all, when I talk to the candidates on the other side, when they're just preparing themselves to start their journey on an MBA, and they're absolutely exploratory and they have no idea what they're going to put. And when I read the applications just before they are going to click the submit button after they've worked with Shantanu and all of the consultants. And then I think about it, like, what did these 3 to 4 months do to this person? It really sounds like this person knew their journey right when they got out of their mother's womb. And that's what I'm sorry joking about it, but that's what business schools expect you to do, is how I read your applications. They expect you to know that every step that you're taking today is towards a bigger goal or a bigger vision or a bigger purpose that you're painting for them, and everything has to be connected. So try to do that for your applications. I think that's the long story short. Lovely session with you, Shantanu and Sai, and I hope all of you enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us today, and feel free to send me your questions later.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sai.